Let me
No. Oh my God. Mom!
King!
It is difficult to end shows sometimes. You know, we've seen some great shows have terrible endings, some great shows have solid endings, and great shows have great endings. And so there's a very open question to me about whether Succession would have a successful ending. And in particular, I was intrigued by this show because based on interviews that Jesse Armstrong has given, it seems like they decided they would end the show permanently after they had finished filming. So it's like, that's kind of, usually you'd make that decision before.
Can't do any better than that.
Yeah. So it's like, is it going to feel like, I had all these questions, like, is it going to feel like closure? Is it going to feel like satisfying? And so let me start with you, Devindra Hardawar. Did you feel like Succession season 4, episode 10 stuck the landing?
Absolutely. I think, as we've talked about the show, I think it is one of the best examples of a show that fundamentally understands its characters. And from the beginning, like, I think the pilot and some of the early episodes were a little rough, but once I knew who these people were and kind of how horrible they were, they just thought too much of themselves. Like, they're so deluded by their own power and by their standing in society that they think they can do anything. But the full realization by Roman, and I think ultimately by Shiv too, is that they're all bullshit. We've kind of been saying this from the beginning, and this actually brought to mind the ending of a Glass Onion movie, the most recent Glass Onion movie. And it's like, it is that realization of like, so much of their lives and their worth is built up on this thing they inherited, or money that they landed in. And what they have to offer the world is basically nothing. They are empty, amoral people who don't know how to be human. And that is a fascinating thing to basically weave into the final few minutes of this entire series. So I felt like, I thought if they were going to go with just, okay, Kendall gets it after that whole beach thing, and they have a fun family bonding moment, I felt like that never could have lasted. And if it was just like Kendall being at the top of the throne, and maybe he's a bit sad because he's kind of doomed to this thing he's always wanted, to me that would have been the boring choice. Whereas the choice now is that it's Tom, the most boring, guy among that group, but also never an insider in the Roy family. Somebody who's always been striving, and I think very representative of like an American mentality too, that you can, come from the middle of nowhere and be a big CEO of a company and have so much money and so much power and influence, and you'll lick whoever's boot it takes to get you there. I find that really fascinating. It makes sense that Skarsgård's character wants to install somebody who doesn't want to push anything or ask any questions. And that, honestly, that reminded me a lot of just what happened with Twitter recently with Elon Musk installing somebody to basically be his paint sponge.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Twitter parallels here. Yeah.
So many parallels to real life, so many parallels to like the world as we're seeing it. But Succession was always like a step removed, although it kind of got close. I think the election night episode this season freaked me out. And just looking at Twitter and looking online, seeing people just being like, we are 5 minutes away from this kind of happening here. And it's just portrayed so well. This show has always done such a great job of putting a lens on our society and power and wealth. And I think the finale, totally landed it. I think everything kind of landed where I expected it to. And I'm sure people are going to be debating, the very final thing with Kendall. But I do think like the water imagery around him has always been very interesting. And to kind of end him there, he's at the end, the tip, the most bottom point of Manhattan. That's Battery Park, overlooking the Statue of Liberty. There's a lot you can read into that. But I think, sure.
Mm-hmm. The one man who knows for sure
what he did,
staring at him.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
It just, there's so much. I'm glad they didn't leave it on like a big twist or anything. Like, I think fully putting these characters in kind of a horrible fate, or a fate where they are self-aware of their own terribleness, is kind of fascinating.
Jeff Kanata, do you feel like Succession stuck the landing?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to start this discussion of Succession and Barry saying to you guys, remember when it was hard to end shows? Remember when ending shows almost never went well? We had Seinfeld, and we had, Battlestar Galactica, and the list goes on and on and on of shows that are beloved to me that just had such disappointing endings. And here we have two shows on the same night that are among the best television series of all time. Among my favorite, they're in the pantheon of all timers. Both of these shows, and both of them just nailed the endings in ways that as you said, Dave, I also wasn't certain they could.
Yep.
Because the expectations are so high. And the fact that this final season of Succession kept outdoing itself, that you would, I would see a banger episode and be like, wow, it peaked too early. The death of Logan Roy. Wow. Episode, what was that, 3?
Yeah.
Yep.
Peaked too early. Now, they're never going to be able to top this. Then you have the election night episode. Wow. Oh my, how? And then I feel like this last episode, while I don't think it, bested those two in my mind, it certainly is up there. And I think it was such a wise decision to take Logan out of the picture early and see how these children flounder and how they're just, as Logan himself said, not serious people. You are, I love you, but you're not serious people. And I think so wise of the creators of the show to recognize that needing dad out of the picture, because it's so easy to think that Logan's manipulation and undermining and mind games are the cause of their ineptitudes. And in a certain sense, it still is in death, right?
Yeah.
Posthumously. But they are just, Devindra, you put it very eloquently, they are just incapable of being human. And ultimately, I had a friend who said, Succession is a show about how people don't change.
Yeah.
And I think that's accurate. I mean, ultimately, Kendall, it's that sequence where he's literally just turned into a 6-year-old going, but give it to me. You get this doesn't make any, give it to, like,
I am the eldest boy. I am the eldest boy.
Patently false. Yeah.
It's mine. And I love that Shiv was like, but you're not the eldest boy. It's so beautifully illustrated these broken people and these hollow, empty people. And, we have Roman having his own temper tantrum in the midst of that mob scene and being spanked by, the pedestrians there and kind of realizing, oh, I am not the big man. I am bullshit, as he says. And, I think it's interesting to see the core family and then also have the aspect of these people who aspire to that, Greg and Tom, who are not of that world, but desperately want to sell their souls, will sell their souls to any bidder at any time.
Who needs a soul? Yeah,
exactly.
Season 2 finale. Yeah.
And I also love seeing the perspective of the sort of the old guard who just look at these kids and shake their head and know how unsubstantial they are as humans. Seeing the kids come together and then be blown apart by the same shit that there's always been a problem is, yeah. We'll all get together, but it's mine. I deserve it. Dad wanted me to do it. I'm the one who gets the golden star on my shirt. It's tragic, beautiful, incredibly well written, and there's not really anyone to root for. Tom is as vile a character as anyone else, and he sort of knows it, right? He has no moral center either. There is part of me that felt like it should be him. You said
he's
it really
one
wasn't
that actually wants it too. Like, he aspires to it, whereas the others just feel they deserve it.
Yeah, but man, I think this is among the most perfect endings to a series ever. I don't think that it needed more. It is surprising, as you said, Dave, that they didn't make that decision till the end, until after it was over, because it does feel like this is closing the book on these characters in a large sense. Endings are hard. Endings for series that, you don't start out with a destination in mind necessarily, and you go multiple seasons. Game of Thrones, we just saw, had a catastrophic ending season. Like, endings are hard. And I think I haven't talked to anybody that didn't think the Succession ending wasn't absolutely stellar.
My thoughts on the finale overall, I think overall I agree with you. I think they stuck the landing. I think it's a solid ending. But my feelings on the season are stronger than they are on the finale, which is I thought this was a brilliant season of television. It takes place over the course of around 2 weeks. Every episode is around 1 to 2 days of time. And that's like really amazing. It takes a lot of discipline to do that. This is the most consequential 2 weeks of these characters' lives.
Yeah.
And to feel like you had a front seat for it and to feel like you're experiencing all these major developments with them. It's a very special feeling that the show gave us. The show has been episodic always. It has been episodic always, meaning like every episode has a beginning, middle, and end, and every season has a beginning, middle, and end. Like you could have ended Succession at any given season, and it would have felt like, hey, that's a solid place to end it. And I admire that discipline. I admire the discipline for the season. I admire the discipline for the show in general. And I thought it was very, very solid as an ending. So overall, I agree with you.
The other thing that's I think is pretty cool and doesn't always happen with shows like this that go on multiple seasons is that it's still about the succession, right? Like the principal question that was asked episode 1, which is who's going to get this company, is the question that's asked that's answered at the end, right? That's not always what happens. Sometimes these series sprawl out of control and become about something completely different than what they started about, or that question is answered season 2 or 3, and then it still goes for a couple other seasons, and it has to sort of redefine itself. And I thought it was so beautiful how this show is like, it's about who's going to get this company after Logan Roy dies, or who's next in line, and that's what the final episode answered.
That was a clip from the Filmcast After Dark. To get access to the whole episode, go to patreon.com/filmpodcast. You can sign up for ad-free episodes as well as exclusive After Darks. You can find the regular podcast at thefilmcast.com. And of course, like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.